this special coverage, we explore Lebanon's political developments, including Prime Minister-designate Nawaf Salam's commitment to forming a reformist government. Additionally, the Russia-Ukraine conflict has escalated, with intensifying military actions and diplomatic efforts shaping the future of the region and global relations.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين.
الوضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
The Lebanese presidency has announced that a meeting took place between President Joseph Aoun, Speaker of Parliament Nabih Berri, and Prime Minister-designate Nawaf Salam amid anticipation of the announcement of the new Lebanese government. The consultations to form Salam's government encountered numerous party-related obstacles due to objections over the portfolios assigned to each party. Despite initial agreement on the ministerial nominees from Hezbollah and the Amal movement, the Lebanese Forces Party expressed reservations about the government structure and its ministerial statement, reaffirming that it would not grant the government a vote of confidence. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun has received the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign and European Affairs of Slovenia, Tanja Fajon, to discuss the latest developments in Lebanon. The Lebanese president called on European Union countries to support his country in its demand for the implementation of the terms of the ceasefire agreement, which includes the withdrawal of Israeli forces from the occupied Lebanese territories in the south. The Commissioner General of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, UNRWA, Philip Lazarini, has confirmed that the agency in Lebanon will continue to provide essential services to Palestinian refugees who are among the poorest communities, ensuring their access to education and health care. During his meeting with the Palestinian ambassador to Lebanon, Lazarini added that UNRWA needs more support than ever to continue its work in Lebanon until a solution is found for the plight of Palestinian refugees.
The agency is critical for supporting a shattered population under ceasefire. And yet, in 2 days...
Israeli army has continued its operations of burning and detonating homes in several towns in the Nabateya governorate in southern Lebanon, marking 2 new violations of the ceasefire agreement. Lebanese news agency reported that Israel has committed up to 854 violations of the ceasefire agreement in Lebanon since it came into effect 72 days ago. The Israeli army has announced extension of movement restrictions in South Lebanon, warning residents against returning to their homes in affected areas. In a statement on X, Israeli army spokesperson said that the military remains deployed in the field and that movement southward remains prohibited until further notice. The army warned that anyone attempting to move southward would be putting themselves at risk. For further analysis on the situation in Lebanon, we're joined from Cairo by the political analyst Abdullah Ni'ma. Mr. Abdullah, thank you so much for joining us on this special coverage. And let me first start by asking you, what obstacles are delaying the formation of Lebanon's new government despite earlier optimism?
Good evening to you and to your esteemed working team of Qnews and viewers. Yesterday I had a meeting in Cairo News, or rather an interview, and I was very optimistic that within 48 hours that the government will be formed. But we found some sort of an American veto. We had an American call from the raising a veto of the representative of Hezbollah in the Lebanese government. They do not wish to have Hezbollah to play an active role in the government. This is the thing that postponed or hindered the formation of the Lebanese government. Supposedly that yesterday to be formed. Lebanon was very expectant to form a government. Even the Maronite Patrick said the same thing, that should be formed Wednesday or Thursday, but we surprised today through a phone call from the Americans to Nawaf Salam, wishing not to have an active role of Hezbollah in the expected Lebanese government.
Now, in light of the meeting that involved Prime Minister-designate Nawaf Salam with President Aoun, how did this meeting influence the government formation process? In light of the meeting that involved Nawaf Salam with President Aoun, how did this meeting influence the government formation process from your point of view?
Very soon the government will be reformed, but today's meeting between Aoun and the Prime Minister designate Nawaf Salam, and according to the protocol, they called upon a personnel to show, and this thing that made the media personnel that today will be the formation of the government will be announced. But we've surprised that Nawaf Salam told the president, or rather the president said to Nawaf Salam that we've had a phone call from the American not to give the dual Shiite partners to be in the form or the fifth minister in the government to be mostly as you have a third hindering the formation of the government. That matter, the fifth minister will be designated by the president of the republic along with Nawaf Salam, and proposed the name of Lama al-Qadi. So President Perry told him that it's me who's going to designate him. Salam said or mentioned the matter of the phone call, and this matter isn't going to be working out, and it will be have some sort of a third member to hinder the formation. The Americans, along with the international community, that Hezbollah and the dual Shia to be in the government, but not to play an active role, as it was before. They were representing, Sunnah was represented in the government, and the executive power should be in the formation. But the dual Shiite created something called the third that hindered the formation. That was mentioned in the agreement in Qatar.
Sir, sorry for cutting in, but I have to ask you, Salam emphasized on governance over political disputes. How would this impact the formation of the new cabinet?
You know, today the government is the executive body of the government. So the cabinet should contain the two-thirds of the council plus one, or rather the third plus one. So any resolution issued by the third plus one will be hindered the resolution of the cabinet. If the two-thirds plus one would hinder the resolutions regarding the executive posts in the cabinet, so you will have fifth, seventh poses. So in order to have any objection of the resolutions by the allies, this matter the Americans and the international community do not wish to have this by taking 5 ministers designated by, along with the allies, that will be third members to the head of the cabinet. Particularly, they already have the post of Minister of Finance. As you know, that the Minister of Finance is hindering everything as the one, he is the one designated to sign the financing.
Now,
As it took
sir,
place,
sorry for interrupting you here, but I would like to shift our conversation to the actions taken by the Israeli occupation forces, who recently implemented movement restrictions in southern Lebanon. How do you interpret these actions?
I think that Israel, they have already withdrawn 90% of the southern of Lebanon. They've only just positioned in 50 villages of 160 villages following the ceasefire agreement. Israel protects firstly that they wish to have an active cabinet in order to control the matters without any influence of Hezbollah. And we've seen yesterday in El Berdawiya villages, Israel, through the surveillance drones, informed the Americans that they are, or there is a shipment in Wajaniya that so Israel is surveilling the Lebanese territories regarding the arms in the southern area. So as they do that, they are holding arms every day. The same thing took place in the southern outskirts as Israel protected that they've seen arms in the night. Joseph found send the army to receive these arms. Israel protecting to stay in 5 checkpoints for monitoring, and I think that the UNRWA, regarding the implementation of the resolution 1701, they will present the 5th point until the full withdrawal will be taken place, along with the formation of the cabinet. I think the delay from Israel, as a result that in Lebanon there is a delay of reformation of the government as well as the sovereignty on Lebanon.
Now, these movement restrictions also included a warning from the Israeli occupation forces of those trying to return to their homes in southern Lebanon, and they even fired live ammunition at the citizens trying to return to their homes. And from here, I would like to ask you, what are the potential implications of these restrictions for Israel's relations with Lebanon and other regional actors?
Just natural, as you all know, in Lebanon, the dual Shiite partners, Hezbollah and Amal movement, have signed the resolution 1701 that stipulated the withdrawal of the Israeli army and the laying down of the arms to the Lebanese army. This is a bit slow, and as you know, the international resolution Israel do not abide it fully, and I consider that resolution 1701 as the United States is the guarantee to execute the agreement regarding Lebanon and Israel, and I think it will be implemented. But Israel is taking an opportunity of delay. As you know, that the Middle East region in Gaza, as we've heard from President Trump, who wanted to displace the people of Gaza into Jordan and Egypt, It is based on the Israeli ambitions, and I think that Donald Trump's meeting with Netanyahu, so the matter of the Middle East is postponed due to the meeting of President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel. And as you know, the implementation of the resolution 1701 should contain the demarcation of the sea and land borders between Lebanon and Israel. So, particularly, even in Syria, today they say that have already made a strategic agreement in defense between Syria and Turkey that would allow Turkey to establish military bases within Turkey. That means the exiting the Syrian partners from the area. Now, I think the postponement of the Israeli withdrawal among of this matter in order to be supervising the fifth post and positions that they are talking about in Lebanon, and at the same time from the Golan Heights, in order to where are we going to reach as the President Trump in the new term of the President of the United States of America.
That was the political analyst Abdullah Nama. Thank you so much for joining us here on Q News and for all the information you provided us with. And now we move to the latest developments in the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has stated that Ukraine has significantly intensified contact with the U.S. administration. Washington has been one of the biggest suppliers of military aid to Kyiv since the start of the Russo-Ukraine war. President Volodymyr Zelensky said earlier, Ukraine continues to receive military aid from the United States, but there's no discussion currently about any prospective packages. Russian President Vladimir Putin has met with Kursk governor to discuss the situation in the region and support for evacuees from border areas. The governor drew Putin's attention to the fact that the compensation for the loss of property of 150,000 rubles was made a month ago and is not enough, and is starting restoring infrastructure in the border area despite ongoing military action. Putin agreed to consider additional compensations and a restoration program with the government.
Учредителей, но те 150 тысяч, которые люди получили несколько месяцев тому назад, во многом уже ими использованы. Понимаем, что сегодня все.
Russia's defense ministry has stated it is practicing stealth maneuvers of Yars intercontinental ballistic missiles in its Volga region. The ministry said that the missiles were being deployed on combat patrol routes under camouflage, moving in the field over distances of up to 100 kilometers. The Yars is a nuclear missile that can be moved around on truck carriers or deployed in silos. Russia staged similar maneuvers last year as a nuclear warning to the West at a time of heightened confrontation over the war in Ukraine. The Russian Foreign Ministry has stated that the United States needs to formulate its policy for ending the conflict in Ukraine, after which Moscow could base its position on specific U.S. actions. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova stated separately that Moscow had heard numerous statements from Washington on Ukraine, but there was still no clarity on what the U.S. envisioned in terms of negotiating a deal to end the conflict. Both Trump and Keith Kellogg, Trump's special envoy for Ukraine and Russia, have stated that they are working on a plan to broker a deal to end the fighting in Ukraine, but they have yet to disclose the full details of what that plan might entail.
Какой-то такой прям четкости и
For further analysis, we're joined from Moscow by the writer, political researcher, Romi El-Qalyoubi. Mr. Romi, thank you so much for joining us on Q News. And first off, are the intensified contacts between Russia and the United States on a ministerial level impacting the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict from your point of view?
Yes, for sure. Actually, now the Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov yesterday confirmed that there is intensification of Russian-US contacts on certain levels. So this reflects that the new American administration is concerned to end this Russian-Ukrainian conflict. And in case if Trump succeeds in this mission, this will be a historical move, and he might be even might be a candidate for Nobel Peace Prize in case if he succeeds in this mission. But on the other hand, we know that there is an American deep state which is quite anti-Russian. So we are not sure that Trump will be able to impose his vision upon the internal American parties before Russia and Ukraine. So that's why, although there is intensification of contacts, we cannot be confirmed or be sure that the conflict will end soon.
Regarding President Zelensky's readiness for direct talks with Putin, what implications does this have on the potential for peace talks?
I don't think that this is possible. On one hand, there is a presidential Ukrainian decree dated by October 2022, which forbids for Ukraine to run any talks with Russia as long as Putin is president. On the other hand, Russia does not recognize Zelensky as a legitimate president because actually his term ended in May 2024, and he did not run any new elections to confirm his legitimacy. So that's why Putin and Peskov have already confirmed that they don't consider Zelensky to be a legitimate president, and he can participate in some negotiations, but any peace treaty must be signed with higher Rada, which is Ukrainian parliament, not with Zelensky himself.
Building more on what you said, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov dismissed Zelensky's call for direct talks as empty words. How do you interpret this, and how would that be received by Donald Trump?
Well, actually, I think that Trump has no illusions about Zelensky, and so he knows that this was Biden's support that helped Zelensky to stay in power all this time. So Biden, being as a strong man as he presents himself to be, is that one would prefer to talk with Putin, and he would prefer to get some agreement with Putin and then to impose it on Ukraine, as he knows that in case if the United States say Ukraine, either you accept negotiations and peace treaty with Russia, or we cut any support. In this case, Ukraine will have no choice.
Mm-hmm. Now, I have to ask you about the deployment of Yaris intercontinental ballistic missiles in Russia's Volga region. What does this signal about the country's military strategy?
Actually, on one hand, we have now some peace contacts between Russia and the United States, but on the other hand, there is a new wave of militarization, and even it might be, or even the space might be included in the case if Trump decided to strengthen U.S. defense. So in this case, Russia has no choice but to reply, but some arm race from its side. So I think it's quite natural in the current situation that we have some peace contacts on one hand, and we have more militarization on the strategic level on the other hand, as each party wishes to be in a strong position during the talks.
Now, looking ahead, how might Russia's maneuvers with Yaris missile launchers affect the ongoing conflict in Ukraine?
I don't think that there is any influence, because when we talk about missile races between Russia and the United States, we talk mainly about strategic weapons. And strategic weapons are not arms to be used in a local conflict, but they are rather a measure that is used by any superpower to guarantee its interests on the global level. But in the local conflicts, the crucial role is for tactical weapons, not strategic ones.
That was the writer, political researcher Rami El-Qalyoubi. Thank you so much for joining us here on Q News and for all the information you provided us with. This concludes our special coverage for the hour. Don't forget to follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at Q News EG to stay informed. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more updates on Q News.